podcast just started. That's how we're going to start this thing off. No formal introduction. I know.
Okay.
That's how we do it here. Here, Deborah.
Okay.
We thought about a bunch of different intros, and we're like, now those all sound stupid. We'll just start talking. So,
Okay.
and just so
Okay.
if you guys aren't watching, or if you're not watching, you're just listening, you'll probably recognize that that's not the voice of our Deb, who's normally the co-host on the show. We have a different Deborah. And I'm just going to
Yeah.
say it. Deb and I talk a lot of trash by each other. We have a better Deborah tonight instead of my normal co-host. And I appreciate that you're laughing. It makes me feel good. So tonight's guest is Deborah Stevens-Peebles. She's a wife, mom, veteran, educator, and the author of A Letter to My Son. What's going on, Deborah?
Hi. I'm so excited to be here. This is my first ever podcast. So I'm nervous. I'm a little nervous. My
Oh no,
first
you
ever.
really? I'm surprised it's your first ever.
It's my
So,
first ever.
okay, well, hopefully we don't ruin you on this podcasting thing. Hopefully, you're like,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
I'm gonna
You'll
try my
break me
best.
in. You'll
Yeah,
break me in.
I'll tell you this: every podcast that you do from here on out will be much better. I promise you that.
No, nope, nope. I will never forget this. You'll never forget your first. I'll
That's a good
never
point.
forget this.
Okay, perfect. We'll try to make it the best experience possible then.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So we usually, because this show is called Connectable, we like to talk about how we're connected to our guests. And I've told people all the time, sometimes we have close friends and family that are on the show that we've known for years. Sometimes we don't know the person at all, and we're meeting them for the very first time here. And you're kind of in that category. You know, I've been a big fan of your husband's for quite a while now. I'm talking like, I mean, way like over a decade now of enjoying his
Yeah.
music. And recently he posted something saying, "Hey, my wife has a new book coming out." I'm like, "Oh, I need to check that out." And I saw the name of the book. I read about the book. I'm like, "I've got to get it." And I'm like, "We have to have her on the podcast because
Oh,
it's such
that's
a
beautiful.
oh yeah, and it's such a cool like I want to hear all about the book." But
Okay.
when I saw what the book was about and what you were doing, I'm like, "Oh, that's incredible." I think it's such an amazing thing. And because our show is called Connectable and it's all about connecting with people, I mean, that's basically what your book is helping people do. It's helping people connect to others. So,
Yeah.
um, anyways, that's how we're connected. Pretty simple. It was through social media. You know, like I said, following your husband, he posted your book, and now here we are having a conversation. So, um, so that being said, like obviously in my intro of you, I mean, you have a ton of roles. So
Yeah.
just tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and how you got to this place you are today.
So that's that's a complex question. Like I do an awful lot of things. I'm a mom. I am an educator. I am a veteran. I am a daughter. And I think all of those roles have really played a part in getting me to where I am today. I would say, being a daughter supported me becoming a military member. And of course, I've retired. I've served my country in the Air National Guard for 20 years. But in that role, I learned so much about community, and that that was my first community. We traveled together and did life together and got bombed together. And so many experiences there in my military life, but it's in my military life that facilitated my educational life. Like I am a teacher because of the Pell Grant, and that paid for my schooling and as an educator, and I've also been an educator for the past 21 years. And so that's another part of community. Like if you are in public education, then you know that you are ride or die with the teachers that are to the left and to the right and upstairs and downstairs from you. So um, I've had an awful lot of experiences with community, and in my professional lives, like uh, I just have, and so I've been blessed by that. And in some aspects, community has been very hard for me in other aspects, but as a professional, as a military member, definitely as an educator and as a mom, like all of those things, they overlap and they feed one into the other and then take me back to another. Like this, it's all intertwined. And so all of those experiences make me who I am, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
What and I guess that leads me to your book. I mean, I imagine that because of all of those different roles that you play, you're in connection and in community with people that maybe inspired your book. I'm assuming because maybe they're having a difficult time communicating with a loved one, and maybe they were just like, I don't understand how they do it. And maybe you were, maybe you saw that. I don't know. Is that partially what inspired the book to be written?
The book aspect of it, yes. Originally, the letter to my son started as a letter to my then 9-year-old son. And I, the idea, the thought, it was almost like an unction, if I could say that. Like his letter came organically, and I'll tell you, it was December of 2020, and I was on winter break, Christmas break. And we were in our house. My husband and our family just moved to a different part of the city of St. Louis. So we were in our previous home, and I was laying in my bed, and it was December 2020. We were about 9 months into the pandemic. Um, and if you're anything like me, I was used to the idea of being in a pandemic, but was still scared of people. Okay. Um, but my kids were shrinking. Um, I have my daughter was 7 at the time, and she's a social butterfly. So to not be in school, like we were virtual at the time, and to only be in close contact with just a few family members was just awful for her. And my son, he would turn into paint if you let him. Like he could care less about people, but he had his ride or die. My nephews, their names are Marquise and Caden, and he needed to get around his dogs, right?
Sure.
Um, so around that time, what we did was, we during that time you didn't go around a lot of people, so their parents was like, we really haven't been anywhere. Yeah, they can come over. Plus, it was my daughter's birthday. Her birthday was December the 28th, and it was a nice little way to have a party for her. And so I was laying in my bed. My nephews were over. My daughter was in the front room, and I was listening. I wasn't trying to listen, but I picked up on this laughter coming from my son's room. Um, and I picked up on it and just was like, how beautiful. It's been so long since I've heard kids laugh and,
Hmm.
outside of my kids. And then I thought about the kids that were actually laughing, my boys in there. And what was a happy moment, just a satisfying moment for me, turned sad because it made me also think, I'm hearing innocence in that laughter. And it made me wonder how long before. Now, my boys, all three of those boys that I just named, are very chocolate, like me. I'm chocolate.
Yeah.
Um, and with everything that's been going on in our nation with our black men and our black boys, it just really made me think how who's going to invest in hearing the innocence in that laughter. And nowadays, a lot of our teenagers, no matter what shade you are, they into hoodies.
Hmm.
You know, are you going to who's going to take time to look beyond my son with his hoodie on. Like, um, and it was almost like in that moment, I felt an unction, like a call, a need to explain to my son who he is, who I see him as, um, to speak life into him before anybody outside of my doors speak anything opposite than that. And so I started composing his letter, and it was it just flowed, it I didn't edit that thing. What you see in that book right now as my letter to my son was absolutely his letter.
Hmm.
I didn't, it's unedited. But where the book aspect came in was there's a wider audience that could benefit from, just like you said, sharing what they feel, with the younger piece. Because I also thought about how many of us talk to our kids all the time. We do.
Hmm.
Many of us have a lot of conversations with our kids, and just so many conversations, and but how are they being captured? How are
Yeah.
they being captured? And so that's where that idea, the book aspect of it came from. And I couldn't shake, if you've read the book, then you know that it's just not a letter to my son.
Right.
My daughter's letter is in there, my nephew's letter is in there, my bonus baby's letter is in there, and he's not a baby anymore. He's 23 years old. He was
Yeah.
21 when I wrote it. But I couldn't shake that title. I
Yeah.
just couldn't shake it. So yeah.
Yeah. That's incredible. And it's cool hearing how organic it came to be. Like you said, you were
Yeah.
just kind of hanging out there, and then you could hear that laughter, and then it turned into all of these different thoughts. And it really is just a beautiful thing. And I have a friend who, she's always said that when someone gives her a handwritten letter, it just means the most to her, because it's not just like it's not like, it's great if someone says something to you, right? It's great if
Yeah.
they type something out, but if someone sits down at a desk, it takes a pen and actually writes a letter, there's something really powerful about that. Like you said, it captures a moment, but then there's also something within that letter that says, man, this person cared enough to sit down and
Yes.
actually take time to do this. So
Yeah.
100% agree with what you're saying. Like, there's something different about a letter.
And I'll even say to that, like, my father passed in April 2018, and if
Mm.
anybody is in the military, they will understand this, or have gone away to college in, before 1999. Like, you will understand, just like she said, the power of a handwritten letter. Listen, when I was in basic training, I went through basic training in the summer of 1993, Lackland Air Force Base in Texas. And we had every day mail call in our bay, which was like the common area of each of our dorms. So the common area, then you go into the area where you have your beds and things. But in the common area, our TI would come in, and he would have his bag, and he would sit down in front of this, like, we had a wooden table, like it looked like an old school wooden table, like that
Yeah.
would be in your granny house somewhere. So he would put his RTI would put his leg on top of this table, and kind of reach down into this bag of mail. And it's so interesting, at least from my aspect, that what it looked like. And at that time in the Air Force, our basic training was 6 weeks.
Hmm.
My posture for mail, my first week, like being like, oh my God, am I going to get some mail? And as the weeks went on, and just maybe family members being busy and not being able to write, and just I was further and further back. But I'm going to tell you what, my best friend wrote me, and I have letters from her. My mom wrote me, my aunt sent me cards, and my dad wrote me 4 letters.
Hmm.
And what's so significant about his letters in particular was I was taping the promo video for the book, like, you know, months back, and was trying to pull out this content because, my Vernon, who was the videographer, and Danielle was like, we got to get this content out. Where's the emotion? So I'm trying to pull this content out, and I thought, I was like, oh my God, I think I have some letters from my dad who's
Wow.
now who's now passed, right?
Yeah.
So I was able to kind of maybe even think about that a little bit. But after we got done taping, me and my kids came upstairs and went over. I still have these letters, by the way. They're 21 years old now.
Wow.
I pulled them out, and not only did I have one letter, but I had four letters from my dad. And it was almost like I was transported right back
Wow.
to 1993. And what he was talking about, and his hand. My daddy writes amazing for a man, if that's an appropriate thing to say, but I'm gonna say
Oh,
it.
it is. Mine's not great.
Okay,
Mine's not
okay.
great.
He has amazing handwriting, and
Yeah.
oh my God, and he would write either on the yellow legal paper, or this little cute little half paper, and he would write multiple pages so you can feel like you're reading a lot. And so it really was a gift. And so part of the theme of my book was not negating the conversation. Still talk to your kids, talk to your young people. We all need encouragement, affirmation, and wisdom, but write it down. Just like what your friend said, so that they can go back to it when they need it. What if I would have thrown those letters away?
Right.
Like, as a child, I'm sure you expect for your parents to expire at some point, but that's a gift to me. Like, I can go over there at any point and be like, let me just get back right here.
Wow.
So I that's a big part. And it's a big part, and it's hard to do. Time is just so precious nowadays, right? Like, and we're such busy people.
Right.
Which is why I think it means so much when you can write a letter. My son is 11 years old. He still got that letter.
Wow. It means that much to him. That's incredible.
Yeah. And my daughter she still has part of her letter. She don't have, they're two separate children, but she still has part of it. And
Yeah.
I just think that that's amazing that
Yeah.
you just kind of never know what's significant to kids, but as of right now, they still have them.
That's amazing. Well, I'm wondering, when you were writing this book and you were putting all this together, and you were putting these concepts, like I was telling you off air, what I love about this book, because it's a very thin book, but you break down each letter. I'm gonna be honest with you. When I first got it, I'm like, wait a minute, did I get the right thing? And then you
let
start
me
flip.
say, let me tell you something.
Please.
It was a struggle for me. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you. This book, it was a struggle to get 27 pages. Let me tell you. I don't want to lie. I don't want to lie to you, Josh. It
No, I
was a
appreciate that.
it was a struggle to get the 27 pages. I never would have pinned myself as an author, and um it's still a challenge, or maybe even a, like, when you hear author Deborah Peoples, you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I can't consider myself that as of yet, although I understand the definition, and having a book does make you an author, but it's certainly not. I mean, I'm an educator, and I had a hard time getting these 27 pages out here now. So I definitely have some things that I need to work through, as far as the what's an author, what's not an author, like my expectations there. But it's very simple. I didn't mean it to be the amount of pages that it is, I just didn't have any more to write. Like it served its purpose. I needed the letters to be in there, and I wanted to inspire um creation, if I could say that, for those who really didn't take to the letters. Like, I mean, though this is my kids, my words to my kids. And so if a person doesn't connect to it, I totally understand that. You don't know my kids and you don't know me, but you might connect to some of the ideas that might spark some ideas for you.
Right.
So I mean, it
Well,
turned out the way I needed it to turn
oh, I thought it was incredible. No, I don't think it needed to be any more than 27 pages because, like I said, you don't want the reader to get lost in, like a bunch of, like, this is a 200 book or 200 word book about writing letters. It's like this, you said everything you needed to say, and it makes it very simple for everybody. So it's like if like writing a letter is like a daunting task for someone, you make it really
yes.
easy, and you make it easy for someone who's like, oh, you know what, I could do that, because you give prompts. It's like, hey, maybe
Yeah.
give out like a piece of encouragement for your son or daughter or bonus
Yeah.
child, or
Yeah.
and the way you break it down is really simple. So I imagine even if someone has a really tough time maybe communicating those things, or like, how do I even start writing this letter, you make it super
Yeah.
simple. So i'm i'm
Thank you.
I'm happy that it was 27 pages. I think that was the
Thank
appropriate
you.
amount. But no, I think it's well, let me ask you this. As you were writing it, obviously the idea is to give a letter to someone that you love, your son, daughter,
Yeah.
bonus child, anybody else in your life, right? Like, the idea is to
Yeah.
give them that gift. But I imagine that you're also giving the person who's reading this book and the person who's writing the letter, it's almost like a gift for them too, because I imagine it's very therapeutic, right? Putting those words on a piece of paper for someone that you care about.
Yeah.
So like when you were writing the book, were you thinking about the writer as well?
I I wasn't initially, like I said, when I started writing, I felt like a a calling, if I can call it that,
Yeah,
to get it down.
sure.
And in doing that, I couldn't explain why this is coming out the way that it is, outside of maybe the initial purpose to let my kids know how I feel about them, to encourage them, to affirm them. But when it came to the piece of the wider audience, I didn't have a, a personal purpose, if I could say that. I felt called to create this and wasn't sure what it would do or why I was doing it, which was why writing the book wasn't scary.
Hmm. Sure.
Writing it wasn't scary. Publishing it was. Okay. But I didn't have a purpose in mind outside of, I felt like I was on assignment to
Hmm.
get it done.
Yeah.
You
Interesting.
know?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Um, well, I like what you said. Something you said just reminded me of one of my notes. At one point in your book, you mentioned that this doesn't have to be like a long letter. It can be a short letter. It can be a long letter, whatever you want.
Yeah.
And I think that was awesome for you to include that, because I'm sure some people, even just some people seeing the title of your book, may think, oh man, do I have to write this huge long letter?
Yeah. No.
And you're like, no. It's whatever's in your heart, whatever you're feeling at that moment, whatever you want to share with that person,
Yeah.
whether it's short or long, it's not wrong, right? Like, it's just whatever,
No.
wherever you're at, that's what it is, and that's how it's supposed to be. So I thought it was cool that you included that, because I feel like that probably takes a lot of pressure off people who maybe are intimidated by the writing idea.
Very much so. And so I did and have done a pilot for a workshop model.
Oh, cool.
And, I asked 10 people that I respect and trust, that are also critical friends, to just come and sit through this hour session that I had in mapping and drafting their letter. Um, and one of my participants wasn't ready to write.
Hmm.
It became overwhelming while there. Um, and he wanted to know, okay, so I'm not yet ready to write, speaking to your heaviness and maybe the therapeutic piece of it.
Yeah.
Um, the real, another real aspect of it is it can be therapeutic, but some of our relationships to write to them can also be scary. And so he wanted to write, but he wasn't ready to write. And so he was like, what can I do? Like, this right here is a daunting task right now, but I know that I want to do something. What can I do? And so it's really about being courageous, um, doing it scared. And I can talk more about that in a while, but doing it scared, song lyrics, images, poetry. If it is from the heart, affirms, is wisdom, or you just need to get it out, like what matters is that you are positioning yourself to be vulnerable enough to open up and give to this young person.
Yeah.
And I believe that those that you're trying to do this with, whether it be your younger son, your nephew, whomever it is, I believe that they'll take that in the spirit of which it was drafted. So if it's a picture, then okay, they're going to know what to do with that.
Yeah.
If it's a poem, they're going to know what to do with that. So my best friend is a counselor, um, and her first, so I wrote 18 drafts of the book, and she was one of the ones that read all 18.
Wow.
And you know, all of her feedback each time her bent was always towards, the therapy aspect of it. This is therapeutic.
Right.
It is healing is what one of the words that she used. So I'm 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 with that. I'm with that. But some people might hear that and be like, "Man, that's heavy. Like I ain't trying to do that."
Yeah.
You don't have to.
Right.
It's what I love about this concept, if you want to call it that, is that it's so very personal. It's going to be what it needs to be for what you're drafting it to be.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's awesome. Uh, what is the what has the response been like from people that have picked up the book, and then specifically because you alluded to it a little bit, like why you wrote this book, but specifically like the Black community, like because I know on the back of the book you explain how important that is for like Black parents to share these words and share these letters with their kids, because as you mentioned earlier, there's so much negative out there
Mm-hmm.
that's waiting for them, that in
Mm-hmm.
the household like that positive has got to be ingrained in them to help
Yeah.
combat everything else that this culture is saying and doing.
Yeah.
So like what is that the response been like from everybody as a whole, but specifically, those in the Black community?
Mm. So it has been overwhelmingly positive. And while I haven't had a chance to talk to a lot of the kids that have received letters, I have talked to their parents and their aunts and their grandmothers. Like my mom has written letters to her grandchildren and to her adult sons. Like, and it has been overwhelmingly positive. And for those that I've talked to, um, like encouraging, it's and bonding. That is what has been an unexpected maybe hearing, that
Yeah.
people are feeling like, oh my God, like he really appreciated that letter. Like I wasn't really sure what he would do with that, or it's a way of creating additional layers of bonds or strengthening relationships that maybe you didn't realize could stand to have that little bit of in it. So
Sure. Yeah.
it's been overwhelmingly positive, and a lot of my friends with sons in particular,
Right.
moms have been writing to their sons. I haven't heard from a lot of my dads, if I could. No, I haven't gotten a lot of response from dads. But right now I've gotten a whole lot of feedback from moms
That's awesome.
and grandmothers and mothers of adult children. And I wasn't expecting the moms with the adult pieces.
Yeah.
So it's, I mean, I'm letting it do what it do. Like I wasn't sure what it would do and who it was for and what it would do or where it would go. Like again, I felt like I'm getting this down because I feel like I'm assigned this. I was on assignment. And so as I'm getting different feedback here and there, I'm understanding what the assignment layers of it entails. And so I'm like, okay, I'm I'm along for the ride. I don't really know what's going on, to be honest. So I'm
That's
just
awesome.
along for the ride.
Yeah. That's interesting. That's interesting that you haven't heard too much from dads. Like I'm a little surprised. I feel like
No.
this would be a really I can think of a few that I know that this would probably be a huge benefit for because um, they're probably when it comes to like speaking, they're probably a lot more on the reserve side, more introverted. When it comes to sharing those types of things, they're probably not going to
Yeah.
be as willing to do so. But I mean, like you said, I mean, writing seems like it's a little bit would be an easier thing because it doesn't necessarily require it's not a back and forth conversation. You get to kind of put it out there and then hand it to someone.
Yeah.
To me at least, that's my thought. Like I know some dudes that could probably benefit from this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for that perspective. I wasn't even thinking, why haven't I heard from dads? Hmm.
Yeah. So come on, guys,
Yeah, guys. Where
get on
you
this.
at?
Hey, and
Where you at?
and who knows? Maybe they have read it. They have been writing letters. They're not just sharing that information. Hey, let
I'm
Deborah
hoping that
know.
that's it.
Let Deborah know what's going on. Come on.
Yeah.
But
Help
that's
me out
interesting.
here.
That's interesting what you're saying too about the adult children, the moms and their adult
Yeah.
children, because I imagine, because obviously we don't know what those relationships are like. There might be some great relationships. There might be
Yeah.
some that are pretty strained. But can you imagine like all of those years, after all those years, and then say you have someone who's 45 years old, and then their mom writes them a letter hearing all these things, like I'm
Yes.
sure that's a pretty powerful thing. It's like, man, I haven't heard these things for all 45 years of my life, and all of a sudden, now in
Yes.
one simple letter, it just like you said, just like smacks me in the face, like, oh, this is how I feel about you. Here you go, and
Yes.
now you get to keep it forever. It's pretty cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then it with your adult mind, you're understanding what's being said.
Right.
Like I don't think my son could articulate like my mom is, affirming me. Like in my son's letter, I talk about his name and where it came from and why he has it
Mm-hmm.
and how he is very much an embodiment of, you know, my people, and I talk about his character and what I see and where he goes. Like, I don't think my son in his 9-year-old self or even in his 11-year-old self would say, you know, my mom really wants to share her wisdom with me. I talk about my fears, my experiences as just a Black woman and how different it might be from him. So in his small or younger mind, I don't think his ability to reflect is as sophisticated as, of course, it's going to be.
Right.
But receiving a letter as an adult from your mom, your aunt, like just really speaking into you and pouring into you, and you know exactly what's happening,
Hmm.
how encouraging must that be? I I couldn't imagine, but I was just grateful to hear it. Like I'm not sure what to expect. I don't have any expectations. And so when I hear things, I I'm just like, okay, God, like I love what you're doing. Like
Yeah.
I'm just a part, I'm just the knife in the drawer, you know.
Right.
I'll be a fork tomorrow. Like
Yeah.
you know, I'm just happy to be a part of whatever it is that he's doing.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure I mean, it sounds like it's just been such an awesome tool for so many people to use. And it's like you said, it's creating bonds and creating relationships or strengthening relationships or maybe like, I mean, like to your point about the adult child with their parent, like it might give a different perspective on who your parent is, like who your mom is, who your dad is, right? Because you've had this perception of them for all these years and you think that they're one way. And then they write this letter and you're like, oh man, I didn't know this about her or him, or I didn't know this part of
Yeah.
their life. Like it's a cool thing. And it's such a cool, like you said, it really is a bonding thing. And
Yeah.
if people take advantage of this, like it could be a really powerful thing for their relationship with their families, which I think, everybody, please. And I'm not just saying this because Deborah's on the show. I would never do that. Definitely, this is a really cool book. Definitely check it out. I haven't told you this, but I have my wife and I have a two little girls, 3 and 1, almost
Mm,
1. And so,
mm,
as I read, I flipped through the book, but I was really focused on the section about, a letter to my daughter. And just a really cool thing for my wife and I to start thinking about is doing these types of letters so that, like you said, they have something to hold even at this young age, so that one day when they're older, they
yes.
can look back and kind of get our perspective about where they're at and what we believe for their life. I think it's a really cool thing,
Yes.
you know.
Yes. My mother-in-law, who is amazing, by the way, that reminds me of something that she did for her sons. And my husband is one, he's the oldest of four boys.
Okay.
But my mom had boxes of all of their keepsakes.
Oh yeah.
And when they turned 18, she gave them their box. And they could go through and just look at different things that she either collected for them or things that were
Wow.
significant, things like that. So, even when they're young like that, we read to our kids all the time. So it's not going to be abnormal for you to read that letter, but then to tuck it away
Yeah.
for when they're older or about to get married. Like now I'm not good at that. I have all intentions
Yeah.
of, I had the baby book for both of my kids, and those books just sitting there with the pictures inside of it. I didn't get a chance to just get it. And every summer, my son is 11 and my daughter is 9. Every summer I say, this is the year that I'm going to get their books situated. Now, this they
Yeah.
baby books now. But man, those books just still looking just fat with stuff in there.
Yeah.
I'm probably just gonna get them babies. Here, y'all. Here you
Yeah.
go.
Fill it out for your own kids. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
You look through the pictures.
yeah. That's so true. Hey, I'll tell you what, there's probably so many parents that are listening to what you just said. It's like, they're like, I've got 6 baby books, haven't been touched.
Oh
Haven't
my
been touched.
God. And you think with your first one that you might would, huh?
You would think so.
You think, but you know what? I have for my oldest son, I have his blanket, like his very first blanket that
Yeah.
one of my community group members, her name is Debbie, she knitted that. I have my daughter's blanket that my aunt Etta Ford knitted, and the baby books with
Yeah.
nothing filled out. So what
Right.
am I going to, I don't know what to do with that. But
Yeah.
that's what it is. It is
Hey,
what it is.
you're not alone. You're not alone. But hey, they
Thank
they'll have
God
they,
for that.
they have letters now though. So that's all that matters. You made up with the
Yeah,
letters. Yeah. It's all
yeah, they
good.
got that. And I'm going to write them another one. I have to. I want to. I want to be inspired. You have to be in a space to write, don't you?
Well, yeah, that's actually one of my questions for you. I mean,
Yeah.
like, how do you, I'm always interested when people, we have people on the show that have done creative things, whether it's a
Mhm.
musician, a videographer, a writer. I'm always curious, like, how do you stay inspired? Well, and you're also an educator too. And there's a ton of
Yeah.
creativity. My wife is also, she's a high school PE teacher. And
Oh,
I'm surrounded by, my sister's a teacher. My wife's a teacher. My co-host, she's a teacher. I just,
yes.
teachers all around me. Um, but in fact,
Tell
yeah,
your wife I did this.
I'll let her. Well,
Oh,
I was going to tell you, because you mentioned earlier, teachers being ride or die, right? She actually
yeah.
just, we're out here in California, and she just got off a huge, her district just got off a huge strike, or the
Oh,
teachers
really?
union got off a huge strike. Yeah. The district was, they were having issues with the district. And so she just went back to
Mm.
school. Forgot how many days it was, but it was about a week and a half, 2 weeks, I think, on strike.
Oh,
And so
wow.
you went back this week. So when you said that, I'm like, oh yeah, they get that idea for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
for
yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Um,
You should be able to look to the left and do that,
yeah.
and they know.
Hey, they did for
We
2 weeks.
know.
Yeah.
We know it. We know exactly what you're saying. You don't even have to voice it.
Yeah.
So
But
it's special.
yeah, so no, I forgot, I was going to mention that. Yeah, so I'm surrounded by teachers, but obviously, like I said, being a teacher, you have to be creative every day. How do you
Yeah.
connect with the kids? How do you reach the kids? So, how do you, as a writer, as a teacher, all these different roles that you play, like, how do you stay creative? Do you exercise? Do you go for a walk? Do you, I mean, listen to music? What do you do to stay creative?
Okay. So you might not believe me, okay? I am the least creative person I know. Okay, now I can't tell a lie. I said I wasn't gonna lie now.
I appreciate that. We always appreciate it on the podcast.
I, I am the least creative person I know. I am the most structured. I have a routine. We have to stay. I am the type A friend. Like I am that person. Like I
Is that the
am.
military background, that is that the reason, or were you like that anyways?
You know what? I was like that anyways. I came from my dad was in the military. I just think I was wired that way. I am wired this way. I definitely am a person that is active. I I do like to work out. I like music, but I think my kids would say I like old school.
Okay.
And my dad was a DJ, so 60s, 70s, 80s. I like pop. I like all kinds of music.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to get myself situated with country, but okay.
Um,
I have an appreciation of music, and I mean, my husband is a Grammy Award winning producer, so music is everywhere in
right.
our home. Like,
Right.
so my house is loud, um, but I I don't take, people that are creative and artsy are risk takers, and I am not that. Like, it is very difficult for me to even put out the book. Like I said earlier, like writing it was one thing because, you know, I could have chosen not to share it,
Sure.
and my kids would have gotten their letters like I wanted them to get. But the minute I felt like I was on assignment to publish this, it became a totally different ball game then. And so um, I wouldn't call myself creative. I definitely would call myself organized and about the business of whatever that thing is. So if I'm
Mm.
ever put on an assignment, like I'm about that business
Yeah.
and we're going to carry it through to the end with a spirit of excellence. that needs to undergird it. So
Yeah.
I wish I was. My daughter is and my husband are extremely creative, and they
Yeah.
are such free spirits. And I am looking for ways to try to bottle that up and even mimic some of their behaviors and freedom. Like it looks like it's so wonderful to be as free as they are.
Yeah.
But I got to figure it out. I'm seeking to figure it out.
Oh, it sounds like they need to write you a letter on how to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yes.
I
Just
would
write a letter.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
I would appreciate some tips.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I really would.
Yeah. Well, hey, like I said, the book's awesome. And even if you're saying you're not creative, there had to be some creativity that went into this because like I said, you're doing a lot of work in this book that helps other people so they don't have to do as much of the difficult work. Like you're just putting it in a very easy to understand way. It's like, hey, I'm doing all the hard stuff for you. Now all you have to do is write your letter. And this is kind of how you do it. And I like that a lot. I did want to ask you, this might be a dumb question, but so okay,
Uh,
bonus child. Now,
yes.
what is a bonus child technically? My wife and I were going. We should have just Googled it. I don't know why we didn't just Google it. We were going back and forth. Is it a stepchild? Is it like a?
Technically, yes.
Okay,
But
it
I would
is.
never call my bonus baby a bonus baby. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, interesting. So I imagine that's a very different. Um, like when you're writing that letter, I'm sure there's a lot of people that maybe are in that situation that would really
Yes.
struggle with how to communicate those things. Like I'm sure there's a ton of people out there that would have a tough time communicating that with their own son or daughter. But when
Mm-hmm.
there's a bonus child, I imagine there's a couple of different layers of
Mm.
more challenges there. So um what has that been like? How is, I guess, have you gotten any really good responses from people in that situation that it's helped communicate, how they've been able to communicate to their bonus child?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not I have not received that yet. And just to give a little more of a context, I feel like I really am just kind of getting out here with the book. Like I didn't really release it until December the 19th. And so some of the I'm not sure how I don't know the life of a book, but
Yeah.
you know, so where am I at in the life of this book? I'm really not sure. But I will say, as far as the 4 letters that I wrote, the letter to my bonus son was the sweetest.
Yeah.
That was my sweetest letter. And it's very much because my son, my bonus son, he he chose to call me mom.
Hmm.
Like that's a gift. You know,
Sure.
his mother is absolutely amazing. Dee, if you're listening, she already knows how I feel about
Yeah.
her. But for her and Courtney to share Keenan with me, like
Hmm.
he has some amazing parents.
Yeah.
So for him to choose to call me mom, I absolutely know what that is.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't take that lightly. Like, what do mothers do? They nurture, they um they bring about love. They smooth things out. Like, and my son chose to call me
Yeah.
that. And I'll never forget that. And if you want to hear how that came about, because he didn't always call me mom. I was Coco,
Hmm.
which is my nickname for for everyone. So I was Coco for a good 6 years of his life when I met him. But one day that changed, and I'll take it. The circumstances of which it came about were awful,
Yeah.
but to hear that little boy call me mom, I'll take it. I'll take it. And sometimes, a lot of times, the stories that I hear about being a stepchild are not positive, you know.
Sure.
And so I know full well that dynamic of being, a stepchild and what that can be and do. I've heard many stories. Um, but I feel so blessed to be able, one, to have a bonus child, two, to be able to have an excellent relationship with my son's mom, three, that Keenan's parents get along. Like, there are so many pieces to this puzzle that are just absolutely amazing. And so if I can be of any encouragement to anyone that's in that situation, I would absolutely love to do that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, and I was just
Yeah.
thinking too. I wonder if anybody's listening to this that's maybe in a similar situation to you, where, um, the bonus child's mom or dad is still in the picture, and great relationship between the two families. Like, how powerful would it be if someone wrote a letter to that bonus child's other parent? You know what I mean?
Oh,
You know what I'm
yes.
saying? Like, that would be. I think that'd be crazy. I think that would be completely unexpected, and I think that would just be a
Yes.
pretty powerful thing. Anybody, go ahead,
Yeah.
take that idea. That's a free
Yeah,
idea for
yeah.
you guys. Yeah,
Have
yeah,
it, have it,
yeah.
have it.
No, that's
10%. You need to get 10% of that, Josh.
hey, I'll take it. I will take it. Like I said, I have two kids too, so anything
Yeah.
helps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get in my way.
Yeah. Hey, so this has been a lot of fun. I really enjoy this conversation. I could probably just ask you a million more questions, but I want to be respectful of your time because you are Midwest time, and so you're up a little bit later than I am. So I want to be respectful
Yes.
of that. That being said, I
Yes.
do appreciate you being willing to do it at this time. It's awesome. I think people are going to really enjoy everything that you've said.
Oh,
And
yay.
like I've said it a couple times already, but I really mean it. Make sure you go check out the book, A Letter to My Son by Deborah Stevens-Peebles. You will not be disappointed. But before we get out of here, I do want to ask. So, because our show is about connection and we like to get people connected to other people, um, we typically at the end of an episode we ask for a connection suggestion. So, we like to ask, "Hey, do you know a person, an organization, a brand, something that you feel like our audience should be connected with and should follow, maybe on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all those different things? Do you have anything that you would suggest, or any person you would suggest?"
Yes. I have. What do I have? I have a couple of suggestions, actually.
Okay, perfect.
Um, Courtney Orlando, of course, like, his music is absolutely amazing. So I would
Agreed.
suggest him.
I've been a fan
Mm-hmm.
for I've been a fan for a long time, so
Mm-hmm.
I double down on that. She's not lying. It's amazing music.
Mm-hmm. I would suggest, if anyone is looking for graphics, Elohim.com.
Okay.
So let me make sure that I'm saying it right. I'm gonna make sure I say it right now.
Okay.
Um, am I saying it right? Let me get it. Let me get it. Okay, here we go. I have Plush Pal Exquisite
Okay.
for jewelry and clothing.
Perfect.
Okay. And then I have, what else do I have? What else do I have? I said Courtney Orlando.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Elohim Graphics,
Hmm.
ElohimGraphics.com.
Okay.
And then Sparkle Land of Hollygrams for like jewelry and hoodies and resin and all of those kinds of things. And
Perfect.
then just again, Plush Pal Exquisite for jewelry and clothing. There, that's a boutique. Mhm.
Awesome. Okay, so you guys have homework to do. Check out all of those things, all those
Yeah.
people, all those brands. You have some homework. Go check those things out. Deborah, if they want to follow you, where can they follow you? Where can they get your book? Where's the best place to get their book or your book? All that stuff.
So you can purchase the book on Amazon.com. And if you type in my name, full name, Deborah Stevens-Peebles, it will probably come up quicker than A Letter to My Son. So that's something to know. I'm on Instagram at Deborah_Peebles_. I'm on TikTok at Deborah_Peebles_. And I also have a website, DeborahPeebles.com.
Awesome. Go follow all those things. Go get the book. Yeah, it's especially we got Mother's Day coming up. We have Father's Day coming up pretty soon. Like we have all these holidays coming up. These would be great. These would be great gifts to get people to help them. Or hey,
Thank you, Josh.
give them the book and then also write a letter, with that book. And if you're really feeling bold and you have a mom or dad that has a baby book that you want to fill out for them, go do that because that book's in the closet empty, just like we talked about.
Yes, honey.
So
I appreciate
awesome.
you so much. Did I
This
do
was fun.
okay? You were my first.
Are you kidding
Remember
me?
I
This
said
was
that?
awesome. This was
Yay!
awesome. Yeah.
Okay.
So you killed it. This was awesome. So thank you so much, and good luck with everything. Thanks for watching the show. If you enjoyed that episode, make sure you like it, share it, and hit the subscribe button to get a new episode every week. We'll see you next time on the Connectable podcast.